Right now, let's talk about improving Python exceptions.
Yeah, I this came from Ram Racham. I'm probably getting his last name wrong, but this is a pretty interesting article. So I had seen this in code. So, if you exceptions are a big part of programming in Python. I think some people don't like to use them because they're kind of difficult in some languages, but it's pretty easy in Python. And so let's say you've got a you're dealing with an exception. You're inside of the accept part of a try except block, and an exception happens. And if an exception is raised from an accept clause, um, then which exceptions should be reported. And I really don't know what the mechanism was in Python 2, but in there were changes made for Python 3 that are associated with PEP 3134 and others that both of them will be reported. So you get both exceptions, but you get something like that. Often you get something that says during handling of the above exception, another exception occurred. But
Right,
if
which is super frustrating because it's not actually saying the error occurred trying to handle it. It's like I'm trying to add more information to it or give you more detail or more specificity or something like that, right?
Right. So what Ram is pointing out is that if an exception is raised within an accept clause, it can be really one of two things. It can be I something I called some code that I didn't expect to have any
Yeah.
exceptions, and an exception happened there, and that's what kind of the default message sort of implies. Um, but it might also be, and he has like this long block. I'm just going to read it. An exception was raised, and we decided to replace it with a different exception that will make more sense to whoever called this code. Maybe the new exception will make more sense because we're giving a more helpful error message, or maybe we're using an exception class that is more relevant to the problem domain, and whoever's calling our code could wrap the call with an accept clause that's tailored to this failure mode. So, a long mouthful, but basically trying to be nice and raise a better exception or a better message or something. And in order to do that, all you have to do is just change one thing, and it's the from E. So
Ooh.
within your exception clause, you accept something as E or as, when any variable, but E is often used. You raise the other exception with a different message from E. And that little from will get you a message within the traceback will have both exceptions, but it'll say during the handling of the above exception, another exception occurred. Oh, no, wait. No, it'll say that's what we had before. It'll
Right.
say
That's a confusing one because it looks
that's
like
the
we
confusing one.
tried to handle it, but we actually crashed again inside the handling of it, right?
Right. So the new thing, if you do the from me, it'll say the above exception was the direct cause of the following exception. So that's a
Yeah.
little clearer, uh, I think. So you have the one on the top caused the second one to happen. So you know that we're in the case of somebody's trying to wrap an exception with a friendlier exception, which is subtle, but it's cool. But the reason why I kind of I don't know, I just like it. Rom likes it, and but he didn't see that like nobody was using it, so he went even further, and he went out and wrote a script that can look for probable places where that should be happening, and he did pull requests to setup tools, SciPy, Matplotlib, Pandas, PyTest, IPython, MyPy, Pigments, and Sphinx, which is like awesome that he just went out and did pull requests against all of those projects.
Oh, that's really cool.
The other thing he did was he wrote a new rule for Pylint, and so W0707 raise missing from, which is kind of weird, but basically Pylint will now catch it. So if you use the most recent, it's not released yet, but if you run Pylint from GitHub, you can see that rule. But the next time they release Pylint, it'll be in there. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah. Yeah.
neat.
I like it. I think it's confusing the way it is now. if you don't do it the right way. And I also often get messages from students saying, "Oh, I got this really bizarre error, like some, some other thing, and the problem is buried in the other part of this whole story, right? And it's not clear what part they should be paying attention to. So I think this makes it more clear, and it's nice."